Yeah, well, that's a hard question. I leave out a lot in the books. It's like there is something that is deciding what's in the book. It's a starting point. I don't know what's going to be in the book, you know. I just start somewhere and take it from there. And then something happens, and I remember something, and that takes me to another place, and I remember something, and that's the book. But it's a lot of things outside of the narrative path that's not in the book at all. For instance, this summer, and it's a banal thing, but this summer I wrote about football. I wrote a book about the World Championship in the World Cup in Brazil. And I wrote about football when I grew up, how extremely important that was to me, you know, how big part of my life that was. And people were asking, well, that's not in my struggle. What's this? Why didn't you write about football in my struggle? And that's because it's not relevant. My struggle is basically and most of all about, you know, at least the childhood parts about my father and the relationship to my father. So that's one thing. And other things that I leave out is, for instance, sex. There is a little bit of sex in there, but it's not much, and that's not because it's hard to write about sex, and it's not because I don't want to write about sex, but it's because I have to protect those people, you know, involved. This is a book about me, and if I could write a book about, you know, sex not involving other people, I would have done so, but that's impossible. So it's those things are not in the book too. And there are some stories, you know, that I wrote and I sent to my friends who read it, and they said, "No, please don't write that. My sister don't know. You can't, you know." Those kind of things are either not in the book. So there's a lot of things really. And what you must remember, these are novels. There is a certain novelistic logic to the stories, and you must imagine that there are kind of vast spaces outside of that narrative path. I often think of it in those terms, like a landscape, and like you were walking in a path through a landscape, and there's so many things that you don't see. No, I think that's a problem with my book. Yeah, I think that's true. If you should write something true about life, you have to find something that can capture something specific, but it's at the same time it's bottomless. It can have a, you know, million of different interpretations. For instance, Moby Dick, the white whale. I mean, you know what it is, and you kind of can circle it in, but it still is what it says about the world and what it is to be a man is only possible to capture in such an image, you know. And what I do in my book, I don't have those kind of images. I just try to write it as it is, which makes the book into a lot of small truths, you know, like truths that you can't dispute. But it doesn't have this figure to capture the bottomless elements of life, the bottomless elements of existence. Another story that does that is Cain and Abel, one of my favorite stories of all times, which is bottomless. I mean, you can read it; it's 8 lines, and it's the description is so simple and easy. But you can think of it, and you can interpret it, and you can read it, and you can have, you know, it's layer upon layer upon layer with meaning. And I love those books that have that kind of metaphor. For instance, Franz Kafka, The Castle, Thomas Mann, The Magic Mountain, those kind of books. I think basically they're useless. And I think a novel is in opposition to that. I mean, a novel, the thing with a novel is that you can put all kind of things into it. I mean, you can shopping lists, telegrams, letters, essays, printout from emails, absolutely all kind of things. You can have a play in a novel, and that's that's possible. So I think the thing with novel is that it's in opposition to genres, and I feel that genres are useless. It's a method. It makes it easier to talk about literature. That's a good thing. But as a writer, there's no creativity in making things into separate sequences, separate entities. No, I didn't choose it. No, but I mean, when you write, there is something you are looking for. You don't maybe not know what it is exactly, but it is something you want, and it's something you don't want. And in this book, I didn't want a kind of classical narrative structure. That was the only thing I knew basically before I started. Because I've tried to write this story, the first part, book one, which is about my father's death, as a classic traditional narrative told novel, but it didn't work. So I wanted it to get the reader to get a feeling to be closer to life. So I tried to do it differently, but I have no idea where I was going or how I was going to do it. I just started to write, and slowly this kind of style evolved out of that, and many reasons for that, I think. And when you reconstruct it afterwards, the reasons seems very meaningful and very, clever and like it's really thoughtful, but it isn't. It's kind of a coincidence, really, that I wrote that way. But there was something satisfactory in it, so which made me do it in a way. For instance, all the details in it. That has obviously a metaphysical element to it. That really is a question of what kind of reader you are. I mean, I didn't, when I wrote the two first part, there are no humor in them for me. Not at all. This is serious, and this is for real for me. But then I got the first Swedish translation of the second book, and I opened it just, get a sense of it, and I started to read, and I realized, no, this is a comedy. This is funny. It's really a matter of where you are. I mean, humor is distance. You have to be distant to something, and I try to avoid distance when I'm writing. But when I'm writing about myself as a child, there's a lot of distance and there's a lot of humor. And in book 4, that's a comic book, really, because it's the distance is so huge between the reader and the writer and the character. It's tragic as well, but it's tragic in a funny way because every 17-year-old are basically stupid. That's the thing with being 17, and everybody knows that, but the character, he doesn't know that. But I'm very happy you said that you find my saga text funny, because it was very funny for me. But it's like people didn't recognize that. When I started this book, I didn't really realize that. I was very naive and kind of enclosed in myself. So I just wrote it. I didn't think too much of someone should read it. But then I gave it to those I've written about, and then I realized that this isn't innocent, and this isn't just a matter of me telling you know, about my life. This is very hard, and I'm hurting people. And I didn't want to do that, but I did. And when those books were published, I wrote those two first books by myself. And when when those were published, I sat and wrote book 3, and then I knew about this reaction, and then I kind of changed my attitude. I was very much aware of what I was writing about others, so I tried to be much kinder in a way. And one of the people who read the books before it was published asked the question, do Knausgård only have nice friends? What is this? You know, because they realized that it became soft in a way. Not that this dishonest, but I just, you know, don't write about unpleasant things about others in book 3, 4, and 5. And then I realized I have to take that kind of brutal, ruthless honesty back, and that's what I'm trying to do in book 6, which was terrible, terrible, terrible difficult. In book 1 and 2, I didn't know about the reactions, and I thought this isn't, you know, this isn't dangerous in any way. But in book 6, I knew it, and I still tried to push the limits. So that was the hardest book to write, really. I've never, I've never
Well, I'm exaggerating.
But it's but it's like meeting people is one thing, and then you have the kind of organized society, the media, and the cultural class, and that I have not much respect for in Sweden, I have to say. But people I of course like, and I live in Sweden, and my children are Swedish, and so on. But I just had an article in the biggest Swedish daily. Some people were attacking me and the attacks were so wild that I in the end decided to answer. So I wrote an article not about them but about Sweden, and it's called "In the Land of the Cyclopes," which is kind of, I was very happy when I found that metaphor for Sweden, the land of Cyclopes, and to deal with one thing. And if it is something ambiguous with it, or if there is something in opposition to it, you just don't want to see it. And if it's there, you get very angry and start to attack it. And that's the way it is in Sweden, seen from a Norwegian perspective. In Norway, it's like you can say a lot of things, and they don't want to kill you. Here, if you say something wrong, it's like they're coming after you, they want to kill you because you are wrong. And I don't believe in that kind of, you know, society where something is wrong to say. I can think disagreement, that's okay. I disagree with you. But here it's like, no, it's forbidden. You can't say that. You are evil, you know. And that article created a, you know, massive storm in Sweden. Luckily, I was in New York then, so I didn't have to take part of it. But it was, but they're still debating it there because it involves the two topics that you can't talk about in Sweden, which is gender and immigration. Those two topics, if you touch them, you become frozen up, you know. So people don't dare to discuss it, and some people, you know, just want to talk of it in this certain way. And so that's, yeah. But you know, if I'm going to, I can talk about this for 2.5 hours without problem, and it's so many good things in Sweden as well. I mean, and so many bad things in Norway. So this isn't a balanced answer really, but it is something that's happening in Sweden. So I think things are changing here, and it's very, very interesting. And that's a good thing with Sweden. It's not boring here. It is very intensive at the moment. Norway could be very boring. Yeah, I started out as a midfielder in football, but I'm tall, so when I was 17, I was moved back, so it was center in the central defense. So that's what I did when I was playing football, heading balls away, kicking balls away, and defending the team. Uh, which in my head I was kind of this brilliant midfielder like Xavi or but I know I wasn't. So that's what I ended up with. And the music or band play was until recently. We played when we were in our 20s, and we just reformed. And then we played pop music from the 90s, basically pop rock, like REM, like Blur, that kind of thing. But then we reunited and played some gigs, and then the vocalist quit. He didn't want to do this, and then we got another vocalist. She's a folk singer and a violinist. So all of a sudden we're kind of a folk pop band, which is so fun. It's brilliant, and we have no ambitions. We just play. So yeah.
But you used to play guitar, no? When you were like in the first band with Jan Wieder, you played guitar, no?
Yeah, I
You
did.
didn't play drums.
Yeah, I was useless as a guitar player. Something I discovered pretty soon, really, because I had a brother who just, he could just play. He could
Yeah.
just sit and play. But I kind of had to think and to plan things, and with no gift of improvisation, no air of music. I could do it very mechanically. But I still wanted very desperate to be in a band. So when I moved to Bergen to study, my brother was there already, and we decided let's make a band. He played the guitar, I played the drums, so I learned to play the drums. And my place in the band was kind of secure because I was the brother to the man who made the songs and played the guitar, and they couldn't kick me out. So that was brilliant for me. I still really can't play. I don't play drums, but I can, keep the rhythm or what you say. I'm still haven't written fiction. I'm publishing 4 books, 2 books this fall and 2 books next spring, and these books are short texts, um, around 1 page each, about one object in the world. And it is basically written. My youngest daughter, she wasn't born then, so I thought I should, just write to her and tell how the world was like now before she was born. That was the start of it. So this is kind of 4 books about a father showing the world to a daughter, and it's not fiction, but it's writing. It's about one text is about vomit, one text is about the sun, one text is about water, one text is about um, shoes, one text is about chewing gum. It's all kind of things in the world. That's what I'm doing at the moment. Then I would love to write a novel if I can.